Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. Later on, we're going to talk a little rock and roll, which I always do, but always love to do. But first, the story of Tom Clement, who passed away, was killed.
Right.
It's just amazing. Christopher Osher from the Post, the Sun, and now the Gazette has been doing the investigations on this. Let's go back in time for people who don't remember the story. It's hard to believe it's been 6 years already?
2013, March of 2013, Tom Clements was assassinated at his home. He was the Colorado prison director. And a 211 crew member, Evan Ebel, was pinned with pulling the trigger and killing him.
All right, so stop back. That this was Governor Hickenlooper's choice to run the corrections department for Colorado. So I believe it was a cabinet post. And in what seems like almost a movie-like situation, he is assassinated. This was obviously a targeted kill, was it not?
Correct. He was assassinated at his home.
And you say 211 gang. Explain that to me.
So 211 is a white supremacist gang that is powerful in the prison system. So the big debate is whether the person identified as the killer, Evan Ebel, did that killing on his own, or whether his actions were orchestrated by other members within the gang.
When it happened, how long did it take from the event to the arrest of Ebel, and how did they piece that together?
Okay, he was not arrested. He was killed in a shootout.
That's right.
Days later in Texas. He fled to Texas, and there's a Texas Rangers report in which the investigator in Texas concluded that it was a orchestrated, directed job in which Evan Ebel was used by the 211 crew to go over after and commit this assassination, and there were other addresses of other public officials found in his car.
What was their issue? Why did they want to kill him?
Now, that's been the million-dollar question. There are different theories on that, from they were upset with some of the movements that they were being forced to make in the prison. There are other theories that they had aligned with another high-profile prisoner in the prison. But the big debate is whether Evan Ebel did this on his own, or whether there were other people who were never held to account who were orchestrating his movements.
Why does it still matter 6 years later? What is driving you to do the reporting, and what changes in the story have happened?
You're looking at a situation where if others were involved, they were never held to account. And it's an amazing, just mind-blowing thing to think that a gang could actually orchestrate the murder of the top official in the prison system, and people who were complicit in it never were held to account, never were forced to face criminal charges.
What evidence is there that there was a conspiracy to do this? What evidence is there that he was working for 211? Before you know, it's starting to sound very much JFK-ish in that you know the guy who did it. The guy who did it is now dead. What happens after that becomes such speculation. What teases us to think there's more?
The first thing is, the Texas Rangers, they're a solid institution. Their primary investigator, he concluded that it was ordered by the hierarchy of the 211 crew, and he had a confidential informant that was offered immunity by El Paso County authorities in order to testify to that effect. So you're talking about two entities that were taking this seriously as a potential conspiracy. Now, beyond that, we've uncovered that there was a second confidential informant within the prison system who was giving investigators information about how the 211 crew communicated in and out of the prison system, and gave some specific communication that they had had. Now, the other compelling piece of this is Benjamin Davis, who was the founder of the 211 crew. About a year after the slaying, he actually met with investigators, told them that he believed other members of the 211 crew had directed this assassination, that he was not behind it, but that other people were, and that he had lost control of the gang, and that these people were the ones who were complicit. And he agreed to wear a wire in prison, which is potentially something that could get him killed, and collect evidence for them. Now, that's something that's never been reported before that we reported this week.
When you say they communicated in and out of prison, do you have any more meat on that? How did that happen? Do you know?
So they have a system in which when somebody comes out of prison, they're able to relay messages back and forth.
Meaning when someone is released from prison, or when someone
Correct.
goes...
They meet with the people on the outside and they relay messages.
So I'm released from prison. I go back to the gang, the crew, and I can talk with them and tell them what's going on. But to get information back into the prison, is there a feedback loop? Is there a way, or do they just come and visit and talk in code?
My understanding is they have a very complicated communication system. Some of that's been revealed in court documents. This particular component of what this particular 211 crew member, some of the details of that are being not revealed to protect that particular individual.
Getting back to the story that you put out of the founder of the 211 crew wearing a wire in prison, knowing what he's dealing with, knowing how violent this crew is, knowing how violent the gang is, knowing that they have no compulsion on killing him, what is his motivation to do so? You said he got immunity.
No, this person did not get immunity.
Oh, okay. Tell me that.
So he did not get immunity, and he was serving pretty much all but a life sentence in this particular instance. So I have some ideas of some of why he was cooperating, but I have to keep some of those details not divulged. Investigators have asked me.
You can tell me. It's not a big deal.
There are a few
Just
things I have to keep. I can't say why he agreed to meet with them, but he did say that he believed other members of the 211 crew were behind this. And that's significant. Now, he could have been just taking the investigators for a complete lark and lying to them, or... I've
got to think, if you're spending your life behind bars, you have very little to lose leading on the cops that you know more than you know. There's, how do they get a sense that what he's saying is truthful?
And again, I don't have complete penetration into that, but they thought it was significant enough that they actually wired him, sent him into prison, and he recorded some conversations. And some of that was helpful to investigators. It didn't solve the whole thing, but I'm told that some of it was tantalizing.
And the benefit for him, again, we don't know if he cut a deal. You can't speak on
I was told he did not cut a deal. I mean, he was in prison for life. He remained in prison. He had a little bit of his time shaved off, but it was a 96-year prison sentence. He was transferred to Wyoming. I did obtain a letter that's in his court file in which he told the judge, I've turned a new leaf over. I'm not part of the gang life anymore. And he said he wanted to have prison officials contact, the judge and maybe explain some of what he was about now. So that's a little bit tantalizing. I don't know what that's all about. I wasn't privy to the conversations that were had with the judge, or if there were any conversations with the judge. And of course, Ben Davis did eventually end up killing himself in Wyoming. We probably wouldn't have reported this information if he wasn't out of the picture now.
Talk to me a little bit about the reporting on this, because when you're reporting on this, there's a balance of what you're trying to find out and spoiling the investigation. So what attracted you to the story, first of all, and how did you find out what you found out?
So part of what's attracted me to this story is, one, it's perhaps the most high profile killing in the state. I mean, you're talking about a situation where a government official was killed and assassinated. And if other people are complicit and haven't been held to account or forced to face criminal charges, that's pretty significant. Secondly, there's a pretty big debate within the law enforcement community in which members and elements of law enforcement believe that there was a conspiracy in which other members were involved in this and have not been held to account and have not been forced to face criminal charges.
Other members of the 211 crew?
No. I'm saying other members of investigators who investigated this have been upset that criminal charges have not been filed against other individuals, or that there was not a grand jury investigation probing this further. And again, I point to the fact that, there was a Texas Rangers report. It's 77 pages. You can go online, look up my story. We linked to that investigative report, in which there was quite a lot of evidence collected, in which there were phone calls back and forth between Evan Ebel and 211 crew members. There were text messages. There was a confidential informant that said a 211 crew member had directed Evan Ebel to do this. That confidential informant was offered immunity, which means they were taking it fairly seriously that there was a conspiracy, and then there were not criminal charges. Now, some of the investigators on that, the original investigators, have been very vocal in believing that that's not sufficient, that there should have been criminal charges and there should have been more done with this information. So they were some of the people who provided me some of the context to this information and helped point me in the direction. And I think it's significant that the actual head of the 211 crew agreed to cooperate with them toward that end.
I look at things through political eyes, as is my nature, and the incredible chilling impact this killing has had, in that having a government job has always seemed like a pretty secure thing, and never seemed like a dangerous thing. After this killing, I think people think twice about this job, care about their security. I know prosecutors and DAs and judges who are much more careful about their security. But I've never thought of a cabinet member in Colorado ever really having to worry about this issue. How much does it play over the heads of all corrections in Colorado? In other words, is this still a very living issue for them?
It's got to be. I mean, this was a just heinous murder of a person who was just a public servant and trying to do good work for the taxpayers, and ended up dead. And there are, as I've said, a list of other individuals that Evan Ebel had in his car and their addresses. So there is the belief that he had intentions of killing other people.
Do we know who was on that list?
We know some of them, and I don't want to
tell me some of those?
I think some of that has been reported, but I don't want to go into the exact details.
Were all these government officials?
Government officials. The former parole director, Tim Hand, has said that he is under the impression that he was on that list and that he was in danger. I know that a judge, and this has been reported on publicly, was not on that particular list, but after some of these things came to light, after the murder, subsequently it was revealed that that judge was in the crosshairs.
Wow. All right, very last question. Where does it go from here? What's the next step? What are you looking for? What's the next news bite you hope will come out?
I'm wanting to hopefully get more information given to me. I want more penetration into the investigation. I want documents. I want people to talk to me, and I want to understand what happened in this situation.
People want to read the story, go to Gazette.com.
Yes.
I'm assuming. Christopher,
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Stay tuned.